Hey everyone, Wolf Lord Rho here. Before I begin today, a big thank you to MP for the virtual gift voucher. Huge thank you for the support, I truly appreciate it. Thank you. But on to today. Today we're going to begin a little two-part mini special, if you will, on the events that transpired during the disappearance of Cato Sicarius. Spoiler warning to begin, we are going to be discussing general lore from across the 40k universe, as well as the novel Knights of Macragge by Nick Kime. As always, I really recommend you read the story for yourself first, because that's the best way to enjoy the lore for yourself. Not only that, we help to support the great Games Workshop and Black Library, because without them, we don't have this amazing lore to talk about. I will put a link in the description as always. But with that said, let's just jump straight in. Now, as most people will know by now, Cato Sicarius was captain of the Ultramarines' second company. He had carved a reputation that, for good or bad, most definitely preceded him. Here was a hero almost without peer. And so it was that when the Primarch Rabute Guilliman was returned to life, Sicarius was at the forefront of his efforts to cleanse Ultramar, driving at the ruinous powers with a zeal unmatched. And once the Primarch declared his intent to crusade to Terra, to speak with his father the Emperor once more, it was Sicarius he chose to accompany him, naming him commander of his newly formed Victrix Guard. And despite many trials and conflicts, the crusade eventually reached Terra, and the Primarch was reunited with the Emperor of Mankind. Thus was born the Indomitus Crusade, to show the people of the Imperium and traitors alike that Terra had far from fallen. But it was at the birth of the Indomitus Crusade that Sicarius was tasked with returning to Ultramar. Guilliman feared for the survival of Ultramar with the explosion of the Great Rift, so Sicarius was to return to the 500 Worlds with the first of the Ultramarines' Primaris brethren. But as his fleet attempted its journey across the storming sea of space, Sicarius' strike cruiser, the Emperor's Will, was lost in the warp. Its final broken transmission, leaving little hope for the captain's survival. They have breached the hull. They are here. And so began 5 years of torment, hunted and preyed upon by the creatures of the warp, lost amidst the darkness, with an ever-dwindling amount of weapons, ammo, supplies, and lives. As the situation gets darker and darker, things only go from bad to worse. But Sicarius refuses to give in. This ship is the Emperor's will, and by his name it will be so. He will drag them through the warp to Ultramar if he has to. But even Sicarius' determination may not be enough. After 5 years of hell, they are out of anti-ship ammunition. The warp has siphoned power away from all over the ship. Barely any systems still operate other than the warp drive and the Geller field. And that drops in and out at the best of times, leaving the ship open to the denizens of the warp, and driving most the mortal crew insane, dying in droves with each passing day. And if you want a 40k sci-fi horror thriller movie, man, you could not be pressed for a better setup than this. This is as bleak as it gets. The mortal defense crews, still alive, are on 45-minute sleep cycles, running from one demon incursion to the next. The Ultramarines themselves having to resort to patchwork and carapace armour, with their power armour constantly on charge. Even an entire deck, Deck 13, had to be sealed off. with its crew still inside, due to the amount of insanity breaking out amongst them. The Ultramarines simply couldn't spare the numbers anymore to manage them. And this is a really interesting situation to see here. The chapter so often held up as the paragon of virtue and honour, the Ultramarines. And I'm not saying that's wrong, but seeing them having to resort to sealing away a whole deck of crew really shows you how tough things have become. But after they stop receiving any form of communication from the deck at all, they go in once more to investigate, sealing the door behind them. But the crew was now rampant with cultists, and the bloodshed that followed was used to summon an immense demon. And though it's not explicitly stated, it appears by appearance, huge leathery wings, a necklace of skulls, to be a greater demon of Khorne, a bloodthirster. And after massacring any who stood before it, it heads straight for the warp drive, where Sicarius awaits. Sicarius sent an acknowledgement and looked up into the vaulted ceiling. Not so long ago he had descended from that darkened place, wrapped in fire and bringing wrath. Now something else would follow in that wake. Not an angel, but a devil, bringing wrath all the same. The warp engine roared behind Sicarius, its uncanny energies casting strange, flickering shadows upon the wall. They looked skeletal and loomed like destiny. Dacius's voice broke their brief hold over him. Is he dead? Sicarius nodded, not meeting the veteran's gaze. He is, Retius. The lions have lost another. I shall mourn him, said Dacius, after we have taken retribution. Sicarius could not argue with that. He donned his crested war helm, a reassuring presence clad upon his body. No quarter for this thing, he said, his hand upon the pommel of his sword. No restraint. He activated Luxos and heard the plasma coils build to a satisfying whine. He addressed the warriors stood with him, the last of the 2nd Company Ultramarines. We were once known as the Warborn, and served a battle king of Macragge. These were elder days, remembered by a few, he said, his powerful voice echoing around the warp engine chamber. Our dead chaplain, he gifted me this truth, of our proud heritage and the legacy of our forebears. We are not Ultramarines this day. We are not, for our realm is a civilized place that cleaves to the virtues of order and peace. This day, we are the savage. We are the blood hungry. We are the slayers of monsters. It comes, this abyssal thing that killed our brothers. It expects to find mere warriors. Instead, it will find unfettered fury. It will find agony and bloody vengeance. Draw swords with me now, brothers, he cried, letting the Tempest blade slip free of its sheath, a cascade of lightning briefly crackling along its edge. Become wrath. Become terror. And let us kill this bloody thing. Man, I love that line. It expects to find mere warriors. Instead it will find unfettered fury. Sicarius comes across in this book really well. Whether you're a fan of him or not, this book really gives us some great character growth of the man behind the legend. And well, he's an absolute badass to boot. And as 50 swords and blades draw in salute, the heavens erupt. As fire and smoke arrives, with the ceiling above them caving in. The Bloodthirster arrives as hell is unleashed, and Sicarius is just absolutely livid the demons landed away from him. All he can do is force his way through the carnage to get to the beast, until finally, leaping over yet another fallen warrior, he reaches it, With a yell of "Here I am," Sicarius engages the demon, shooting out an eye and drawing its attention. No other foe mattered any longer. The beast came for Sicarius. And Sicarius answered, thrusting his Tempest blade straight into its chest before leaping aside and hacking its hand from its wrist. More Ultramarines died to its rage as they came to assist their captain. Weapons left in its hide as it renewed its assault. But it was being weakened. The constant assault by the Ultramarines was taking its toll, and the beast clearly began to shrink from the onslaught as its tie to the ship grew weaker and weaker. And as it shrinks to the size of a mere man, still bellowing in fury, Sicarius thrusts his sword into its mouth, piercing the back of the demon's head. We are the end. We are Macragge. You've got to hand it to him. Sicarius definitely has swag. 5 years of suffering everything the ruinous powers can throw at them, forced to make decisions with heavy burdens, and having seen countless brothers and humans alike die under his command. But still he remains defiant and unbowed, even in the face of a bloodthirster of Khorne. And let's be real here, sure he had a lot of help, 50 of his brothers to be exact, but he took that bloodthirster on with no hesitation. I mean, he was PO'd it landed away from him, and when he finally reached it, slammed his sword into its chest and promptly lopped its hand off, like a boss. And if there's one thing this novel does well, it's show the character of Sicarius, the man behind the legend and the man who lives up to it. When Sicarius engages in battle, you can feel the inspiration his men receive, the very aura that Sicarius possesses. He really is a great character for the Ultramarines, in my opinion. Finally boosting the power enough to risk leaving the warp, Sicarius orders that they do so. They cannot survive any longer here. It does not matter where they emerge. They will face the threat head on. And we'll discuss those events next time. But as always guys, what do you think? Fans of Sicarius or not so much? Do you like the bravado he brings to the Ultramarines, or does it feel out of place to you? Personally, like I said, I like the additional character that he brings. But are you surprised that he returned to the mainstream lore so quickly? Did you expect the mystery of Cato's disappearance to be kept on just a little longer? As always, leave your thoughts in the comments below, I love to read them. A huge thank you to all my subscribers, your support really means a lot to me, it truly does. And if you're new, please consider subscribing to help the channel grow. And if you enjoyed this particular vid, then why not drop a like on it too. But with that said, I am off, and I'll see you all again real soon.